Re-Zero, Volume 4, Chapter 4, Part 6. The Candidates for the Throne and Their Knights. Subaru wandered round in a corridor outside of the chamber, completely rudderless. He didn't remember much after he'd humiliated himself in front of Amelia and a huge audience. All he remembered was that the captain of the knights had permitted his departure and that he had left his fate to Amelia's judgment. It would have been wrong to say he was there because he didn't want to cause Amelia any more trouble. The reason he'd fled, even after he had gone against her instructions to reach the palace in the first place, was far simpler. He couldn't bear Amelia's frigid eyes any longer. Subaru was mentally berating himself as the guard who had escorted him to the castle's waiting room gave him a concerned look. "Did something happen to you?" He hadn't seen Subaru's humiliation because he'd been stationed outside the huge double doors. Furthermore, his demeanor showed respect towards someone he believed to be involved with one of the royal candidates. "It's nothing. Sorry for all the trouble in the middle of a really important job." "I don't mind. Inside the throne room, they're deciding the future of the entire nation. Even if I'm not qualified to be inside, I'm just proud to be on the edges of it." The irony of the words, spoken with a clear voice, left Subaru with an uncomfortable awkwardness. Here was a guy full of pride for what he was doing at the edges of the selection of the next king. What of Subaru? Could anyone take pride in what he had done? No one would. And the person he had wanted to acknowledge his efforts had rejected him. Unable to stand still, Subaru shifted his gaze when he suddenly noticed a ruckus at the end of the corridor. Just as he turned his head to look, a guard popped in, apparently in a hurry. "Pardon, open the way. We've captured an intruder. We need orders from the captain." "Wait, they're still in the middle of the conference. Hold the intruder in the barracks until—" "The circumstances do not allow us to do that. Either way, we cannot make this decision ourselves." Ignoring the urgings of his comrade, the guard shouted back down the corridor. Several men were dragging forward the intruder that snuck into the castle. Subaru, wondering what was so bad that they needed to interrupt the royal selection, glanced at the intruder. Then, regret stronger than anything else that day struck Subaru Natsuki. He stared dumbfounded as four men dragged the man along by his hands and feet, desperately trying to move forward with a balding old man Subaru knew well. It was Old Man Rom, who had no business being there whatsoever. He'd left a message at the fruit seller's place for him to wait. What was Old Man Rom doing there? Subaru's mind went blank, but then, for once, he instantly found the answer to his question. Wait. Don't tell me he followed me." At first, Subaru doubted himself, but then a certainty welled within him. If Old Man Rom had tried to sneak into the castle there and then, the trigger could have been none other than the message Subaru had left at Katamon. The sharp old man had deduced that Subaru had reason to think Felt was at the royal palace, and he tried to enter by any means necessary. No doubt, Old Man Rom's own clumsiness had led to his discovery and capture, but Subaru was the one who'd brought that result about. Subaru knew how precious Felt was to Old Man Rom. He should have known Rom might lose his head over it. The guards passed before his eyes. By the time he had reached out, Old Man Rom was already too far away. Subaru froze in place, watching them go in silence. If he spoke to the guards then and there, he could explain to them who Old Man Rom was. But that also meant admitting that Subaru was connected to an intruder who had attempted illegal entry of the palace. It wouldn't end just with Subaru. It would make him an even weightier ball and chain on Amelia's ankle. That was as far as he got before he did a mental double-take. When he considered the possibility he'd leave Old Man Rom to rot, using Amelia as the reason why, he felt filthy. Hey, wait Subaru called out to stop them, but a foul-mouthed shout buried his words. Quietly, his eyes went wide as he realized the torrent of insults was coming at him from Old Man Rom himself.
Huh. You high-faulting nobles have some awful taste. Is one bumbling old captive something to stare at? If you're going to laugh, laugh, you filthy-minded young'un.
Old Man Rom, watching Subaru holding his breath, made a disgusting grimace with his bruised face.
If you want to stare, take a good, hard look at this dirty old man from the slums.
One of the guards, offended at the rude words from the intruder towards Subaru, VIP, swung his fist down in punishment.
Watch your tongue. Ugh.
Subaru countered. Wait, please. There's no need to go that far. Rom replied.
You're very kind, young one. Hey, how about it, knights? Your beloved master's giving you an order. Why don't you just wag your tails and do what he said? Ah! Haven't you said enough, vagabond?
The knights responded to Old Man Rom's continued verbal abuse with even harsher strikes than before. For a moment, the boy's gaze met Rom's, and Subaru understood his intent. Even in that palace, Old Man Rom was covering for him. Because if Subaru said too much, it would only put Subaru in a worse position.
Don't butt in, young'un.
The small, faint murmur was followed by insults like those from before for the benefit of the guards. Subaru alone realized the true meaning of Rom's words. And that sentence left a very deep scar in Subaru. Subaru had reached out, only to have his hand rejected. His assistance refused, just like in the chamber. No matter what he tried to do, the person concerned didn't need or want his help. Subaru fell into silence. The guards saluted, dragging Old Man Rom with them once more. Their destination, the throne room, lay ahead. He wondered what treatment Rom would receive at the sight of the royal selection. He shook his head, driving the images off. Rom had a much better chance at a pardon without Subaru opening his big mouth. Besides, there were 3 people present that knew him, with one practically a relative. Nothing bad was likely to happen to him. Probably nothing. Almost definitely nothing. His judgment shouldn't have been wrong, but what am I doing this for? Murmurs spread through the throne room. The cause of this exchange of whispers was obvious. The uproar had begun when Marcus, receiving a report from the guards, dragged a vagabond who had infiltrated the castle into the throne room. At first, many doubted the judgment of the captain of the guard, but one look at the intruder made numerous participants understand the reason for his decision. And then... I told you, let Old Man Rom go. That's all I'm asking.
Unfortunately, I cannot comply.
In the center of the chamber, a tense deadlock continued, with Felt and Marcus squared off against each other. A vein bulged on Felt's forehead at the way Marcus dismissed her demand. Reinhardt raised his voice in an attempt to mediate. Captain, I believe that explanation is insufficient. But Marcus rebuffed his intervention.
Silence, Reinhardt. I understand you wish to support the master you have sworn your sword to, but her acceptance of your sword is premised on her willingness to become your king. During the proceedings of this conference for the royal selection, Lady Felt publicly announced she has no intention of participating in the selection process. Abandoning her qualifications means abandoning any right she might have to give commands to us knights of the Royal Guard. Do you understand?
Marcus laid out the logic of his refusal to comply with Felt's demand. His words brought a scowl to the former thief's face as she furiously clawed at her own blonde hair. This is getting annoying, so let's sum it up, okay? In other words, you won't do as I say because I don't want to do this royal selection thing?
That indeed is the crux of it.
Oh, I see. I get it. You're so annoying. Felt's cat-like eyes glared fiercely at Marcus. Marcus easily maintained his usual poise under the pressure of the young girl's near-murderous gaze. Then the old man, having kept his silence up to that point, made a plaintive yell that echoed throughout the chamber.
Never mind all that. Hurry up and save me. Felt, it's me. The old man Rom you lived with in the slums. I don't really get all this, but you can save me right now, right? Then save me. I don't want to die.
Kneeling on the carpet spread across the floor, the old man made the most amicable smile he could as he pleaded to her. The shameful display left Felt speechless. Even the attendants showed hints of disgust at the miserable old man.
I always saved you when you were in trouble. Many, many times over. Pay those favors back now. Now, I say. Quick, quick. Do something, will you?
The old man sent spittle flying as he cried out for a quick rescue, flailing around with self-serving logic. It was such a mean and disgraceful sight that even those predisposed to sympathy and compassion would be sorely tempted to walk away. In a brief span of time, the old man had made enemies out of most occupants in the hall. Reinhard, sensing danger in the old man's behavior, instantly began to step forward. This is bad. The red-haired knight instinctively realized the old man's true intent and judged he needed to adapt to the circumstances. Do not move, Reinhard. 'Tisn't good to do anything untoward here. But his efforts were frustrated from the outset by Priscilla, smiling craftily as she hid her mouth with her fan. Why do you act in such haste, Reinhard? It almost looks as if you wish to silence this elderly man before he says something troublesome for you. Simply frightening. She's got me, thought Reinhard, clenching his teeth as he realized his mistake. Priscilla shrugged her shoulders in a manner more typical of her. Around them, people seemed to recover from their stupor, whispering about what they had just seen. An old man pleading pathetically for his own life. Did you see? How unsightly. And that face is even worse. I cannot even feel sympathy. It is the spitting image of a thief. He shouldn't be released, though Lady Felt defends him. Even the knights, hoping to have the crime dismissed, began to faintly scowl at the old man. Lady Felt was raised in the slums. Where do people like him live? Even if she really does have royal blood, can someone with such an upbringing handle royal duties? We need to rethink this, or just do what the dragon tablet says in name only. Reinhard bit his lip as the spreading murmurs confirmed his worst fears. He'd been too late, denied any opportunity to refute the words, putting down the girl he revered as his master. Then, with the night's murmurs all around her, he watched from behind as the girl slightly lowered her head. Finally, unable to listen anymore, the young girl let loose with a high-pitched, foul-mouthed shout. "Would you all shut up, you ballless jerks?" A wave of shock plunged the chamber into silence. Attendees looked at one another, seemingly unable to believe what their ears had heard, when the girl, her shoulders slumped, marched forward. The giant old man was kneeling, and she was a little girl, but she still had to look up at him. Her red eyes filled with grief. "What's with you here? That's the worst-looking, most pathetic plea for your life ever, and I really, really hate it." The old man's amicable smile at her approach froze over. "Hey, old man Rom, we people from the slums, there's no help for us, right? We know the people above us look down at the poor lives we lead, and we all have rotten personalities, me included. It's a terrible place to live." Having rated so many things so lowly, including herself, Felt paused for breath and added, "But, yeah, we're a pile of garbage at the bottom of the trash heap. But even if we do live in a place like that, we've come this far by having at least a smidgen of pride in ourselves. No matter how lowly other people see us, we don't lower our heads." Felt. I wish I could show you your face in the mirror right now. You look all meek and submissive, wagging your tail and eager to please, just to save your life. You can't call that living! Many of the attendants gravely nodded at Felt's words, with Crusch among their number. The ideas Crusch had voiced were very much in tune with Felt's words. The small girl put her hands on her hips and bluntly stated, "If you wanted me to spare your life, you went about it all wrong. There's no way I'd give up my right to run from a crummy place just to save you, if that's how you're gonna be." The red-haired young man watched. Her declaration meant she was abandoning someone very close to her, abandoning her right to issue commands, and refusing to participate in the royal selection. Lady Felt. Reinhardt couldn't bear the pain that her declaration sent running through his heart. He'd seen it coming. He'd guessed what reaction the proud girl would display when she saw the old man's behavior. In that sense, she was playing right into the hands of Priscilla and the old men. No, of one old man. Now abandoned, the old man's shoulders fell, bending forward onto the floor as if all strength of will had left him. But Reinhardt did not miss the faint, instinctive slackening of the old man's lips. This was a display of neither despair nor regret. No, he was filled with a sense that his actions had achieved their intended result. The old man had gambled his very life and had succeeded in grand fashion. Truly, Reinhardt wanted to expose the old man's scheme even then, to tell Felt that she needed to change her decision. But Reinhardt could do no such thing. His hands were tied, precisely because of who and what he was. Marcus, watching the old man hang his head before the girl, must have decided the discussion was over. The knight pulled on the old man's manacles, sending the clink of the chain echoing through the chamber. I deeply apologize for causing this uproar before the throne. I shall immediately remove this. Suddenly, Felt interrupted Marcus's apology and attempted to leave. Or something like that, I guess. I was waiting for someone to jump to conclusions. Marcus's mouth closed with a rare look of shame. Seeing his solemn facade crumble, Felt beamed, feeling very proud of herself. She twirled before the dumbfounded audience. So, get his hands loose, Captain. Those shackles are way too small for him. It hurts just to watch. I already informed you several times over, Lady Felt. I cannot comply with your command. Because I didn't want to do this royal selection thing, right? Then it's simple. I'll do it, the royal selection. I just gotta try to be king, right? The declaration, accompanied by a laugh showing off her snaggletooth, sent a shudder throughout the entire chamber. Many of the onlookers seemed aghast at how lightly she made such a critical decision. But naturally, the old man's reaction was even greater, his feelings about her announcement plain on his face.
What are you saying, Felt? I accepted it. What you said is right. You can't live by losing your pride. Having you cut me loose couldn't be
Cut
helped.
the crap, you shitty old man. What, you've lived this long without knowing you can't act worth a damn? I've been with you long enough to know all sorts of things about you, like, when you tell a lie, the swirl on your forehead turns backwards. Felt raised her cheeks and drew a little pattern on her head to demonstrate. Her gesture made Old Man Rom's face go pale. He cried out,
You're lying!
And touched his bound arms to his own head in haste. Felt watched him and said, Yep, I'm lying. Wow, do you look stupid. No sympathy from me.
Ah!
Old Man Rom was beside himself and falling so easily for a trap. Felt shook her head. So there you have it. Get those shackles off him. Everything up to now was just the wild fantasy of a senile old geezer. Marcus dragged his feet even then. We cannot simply let him go on such flimsy ground. This old man's my family, Felt resolutely stated. Let him go. Now. Hearing these words, Marcus's face registered surprise for a brief instant. The next moment, the hesitation vanished. As you command. Marcus stood at attention and then let go of Old Man Rom's shackles. Then he ordered the guards behind him. Unlock the manacles. But Felt raised a hand to stop them. Too slow. Reinhard!
Here.
Reinhard responded instantly to the girl's sharp voice, his tall frame advancing to the chamber's center. As the red-haired young man stood at Felt's side, Felt didn't even look at him. Instead, she crossed her arms and motioned with her chin. Do it. It was the world's shortest command. Yes, my lady. Reinhard raised a hand up to the sky, fingers straight, slicing down through the air like a knife. The old man's wrists were bound by metal shackles, but the knight's hands sliced through them as if they were paper. The manacles, cut clean in two, slid off as they melted, falling to the floor. A high-pitched clink echoed in the chamber. In a true sense, this sound announced this was the moment the two had become lord and vassal. Felt remarked. So this all went the way you wanted, didn't it? Not at all. This was guided by the hand of fate. Ha! Fate again. What, are you a slave to fate? No, I am, more than anything, your knight, Lady Felt. Felt seemed to yield in the face of his unrelenting support as she murmured, You're no fun. Rom's plaintive cry about how he had raised the girl resounded in the hall. Miklatov, perhaps moved by the lament, cleared his throat, seeking to clear the air in the process.
Well then, Lady Felt, Sir Reinhard, may I conclude that you both intend to participate in the royal selection?
Sure, go ahead. Yes, as my lady wills it. Felt's behavior was insolent to the end, with Reinhardt following her. The lenient sage let the incongruity pass without comment, quietly replying, Understood, as he nodded. He continued.
Though there have been some minor uproars, I judge that all the preliminaries have concluded. Lady Felt, do you have anything else to add?
Surely he thought it proper to give Felt the same chance to give a speech that the other candidates had received. She answered the prompt with a and thought about it a bit. One thing, then. Landing on a proposal, Felt raised a finger and looked up, bathed in gazes from the dais. Her red eyes flared as they surveyed the faces of those assembled. Finally, she took a deep breath and smiled buoyantly as she swept one hand toward the council of elders. I hate nobles. She kept that smile on her face as she pointed at the knights of the royal guard with her other hand. I hate knights. Then, with both arms still spread wide, she said, with a spectacular smile and maximum venom, I hate this kingdom! She continued. I hate all of you in this room. I hate the structure you built. I hate every little thing here. That's why I think I'll break it all. How about it? Felt inclined her head. For a single moment, her behavior brought time itself to a halt. Then the chamber exploded.
What is she saying?
This is where the king is selected, and she says she'll destroy the nation?
Then what have we spent all this time for?
Felt blew off the vociferous, angry shouts of the onlookers all at once. Oh, where's all your high and mighty talk now? What about that proud history? Now look, when I become king, I'm breaking all of it. I'm smacking down the lot of you knuckleheads who still can't see the floor crumbling underneath. You all need a breath of fresh air. The speech of the bright-faced girl threw the hall into chaos like never before. Miklatov, listening to the proclamation that was reckless without precedent, nodded generously, his expression unchanged as he glanced at the knight standing beside the girl.
Your lord is quite the feisty one. Having heard her words, what do you think of them?
Truth be told, I believe Lady Felt's wishes are, unfortunately, still in the realm of fantasy. Hey, you! However, someday, Lady Felt's words will reach everyone. It is my duty to give her my full support until that day comes. Miklatov countered.
But Lady Felt counts you among those things she intends to destroy, does she not?
Reinhard bowed deeply on one knee toward Miklatov, showing no sign of relenting. Surely, after destruction, there will be renewal. If she will have me, I will have no greater desire than to be at her side during that time. Felt furiously scratched at her hair as she watched his chivalrous profile. So in the end, which one are you? My ally or my enemy here? Your ally. Yours and yours alone. Fine, then. I'll put you to good use. With her acceptance, the final candidates for the royal selection declared them lord and vassal. Miklatov dipped his head as he gazed at the radiant row of royal candidates. Finally, all the candidates have been assembled. I asked the Council of Elders, do we have a consensus? As Miklatov closed his eyes, the atmosphere around him shifted. The old man's voice carried the power of a strong will. My brethren, I ask you for your consent to announce that this royal selection shall begin with the 5 candidates assembled to date. By the authority of the Council of Elders, I assent. And I assent as well. One by one, the members of the Council of Elders agreed to Miklatov's proposal with solemn nods. Listening to them until the end, Miklatov finally rose from his seat, walking beside the empty throne before opening his eyes. Then I shall announce the rules for the royal selection. Krush Karstan, Lord of the House of Karstan. Krush's foremost knight, the Blue Knight Felix Argyle. The candidates are Krush Karstan, Priscilla Bariel, Anastasia Hoshin, Amelia, and Felt. All of these 5 bear the qualifications to be dragon maidens. Priscilla Bariel, the bloody bride. The mercenary Al, one armed wanderer from another world. The day shall be 1 month prior to the Dragon Friend ceremony in 3 years, renewing the pact with the dragon. The young company president from a foreign nation, Anastasia Hoshin. Anastasia's foremost knight, the finest of knights, Julius Jaculius. The selection shall be made according to the guidance of the dragon by the radiance of the dragon jewels and the combined will of the nation's people. Felt of the royal bloodline, and confirmed. Felt's foremost knight, Reinhard van Estrella, the sword saint. Until the appointed day, all candidates for the throne shall work to uphold their own lands and the kingdom to the greatest possible extent. The silver-haired half-elf, Amelia, the freezing wench. And absent from that place, her self-declared knight, Subru Natsuki. With the minimum conditions fulfilled, I hereby announce the royal selection has begun. Miklatov's great shout filled the chamber with an incredible fervor. No one spoke, but they were all unable to contain their heartfelt cries. Miklatov, feeling the wave of excitement rolling against him, straightened from his stoop and declared, "Let the royal selection commence!"